Mrs. Bale's first grade student of the quarter is Jace Gibson. Ms. Bale says, congratulations to our first grade student of the quarter, Jace Gibson. Jace has come so far this year and has worked so incredibly hard in all areas, especially with reading. He sets a good example with his focus and determination when it comes to reading accuracy and always gives his best effort. He's also made some outstanding progress in math and handwriting. Ms. Bale can always count on Jace to follow the classroom expectations, and she loves how important it is to him to make good choices. He's such a kind and respectful student and classmate, even to his twin sister. Ms. Bale is so proud of Jace, and it's been so much fun watching him grow this year. Congratulations. Ms. Welk is going to present her first grade student of the quarter. Connor Hoover. Connor is my first student quarter of the quarter, and I'm so proud of him. He is kind, helpful, and passionate in a wonderful capacity. Connor brings thoughtful conversation to our discussion in the whole end of the room. We're talking about his favorite activity. He has made incredible growth in math and is now one of our math top students in fact fluency. Connor also shows strong determination when he never gives up and continues to make steady progress. One of the things I love most about Connor is his eagerness to learn and his effort he puts into everything that he does. Way to go. The second grade student of the third quarter is Ethan Yuli. In every way this year, and it has been so awesome to witness. He works extremely hard to get his work done, make good choices, and follow directions. He also does his best and is one of Mrs. Miller's best listeners. He's so thoughtful and kind and always willing to help. He's a great friend to his classmates. He's a team player and a positive student that is always willing to do anything that Mrs. Miller asks of him. His reading growth has been amazing, and Mrs. Miller is so proud of his integrity and character. Keep up the good work, Ethan. Ms. Dawkins is going to present her third grade student of the quarter. Oh, he already knows. The third grade student of the quarter is Cody. Does a great job of making choices, following directions, and being respectful. He's a student that I can count on to do what's right and to set a good example within our classroom. He's a student who also is kind to others and goes out of his way to be a friend. In fact, on our recent field trip, he even made a point to find a young student who, actually not a student yet, was our bus driver's young daughter, and wanted to make sure that she was having a good time as well. Really sweet. So Cody has such a positive attitude, and his laughter is contagious. Makes each day of joy. I'm so proud of the hard work he's done this year and all the work he continues to make. Great job, Dee. This fourth third grade student of the quarter is Coco Pianis. Is Miss Ford's of the quarter, and he is respectful to staff members and classmates. Even when he makes a mistake, he apologizes and makes better choices next time. He always offers to help teachers and classmates, and he does it with a smile on his face. Even when things get hard, Coco has a positive mindset and attitude. Coco also teaches staff and other students about his culture. Our third grade class loved watching him dance at the assembly to honor our first Dufur school powwow. Keep up the great work, Coco, and Miss Ford cannot wait to watch you in years to come. The dress show will announce her fourth grade student of the quarter. Here, but I'm proud to recognize Xander Dunbar as the fourth grade student of the quarter. Xander brings a positive attitude and enthusiastic love for learning to our classrooms every single day. He's always ready to try new things, participate in lessons with energy, and contribute thoughtful, high-level ideas that help move our learning forward. Xander consistently demonstrates outstanding cooperative skills in working with partners and in groups. He knows how to listen, share ideas respectfully, and help others value and be clear. Xander is always on task, kind to everyone, encourages others to do the same. He truly leads by example and helps to make our classrooms a fun, respectful, and productive place to learn. That's a great work. The great student of the quarter is Lena Lindell. Lena is respectful, kind, creative, hardworking, honest, and is really funny. She always gives her best effort in everything she does and works well with all other students. Lena is a student that Miss Mead knows that she can easily partner with anyone else because she's such a good example of meeting classroom expectations. She's a talented writer and is also very artistic. Congratulations, Lena. We could not be more proud of you as you get ready for middle school. Mr. Talley is here to present his fifth grade student of the quarter.
My student of the quarter is Zachary Dufur. That's his best work, whether working on assignments or homework or your classroom job, or even building programs. Zach is so respectful, honest and kind. He treats people as he would like to be treated. He always tells the truth. He is kind. He has a kind word and smile for everyone. Zach never leaves anyone out. He does not tease others. He will also give the shirt off his back to anyone in need. Zach is just an all-around great person. He's a great athlete, student, and citizen. Oh, and he's quite the menace from the lawnmower racing track. And I've got a picture of him that he took a good shot from one of the videos. That's pretty cool.
Sixth grade chair of the quarter is Katie Turtle. Katie exemplifies what it means to be a dedicated student. She consistently demonstrates a strong work ethic and a commitment to academic excellence. Katie is a quiet leader, always focused and on task, setting a positive example to her peers through her actions rather than words. She takes pride in the work she completes, making sure she puts her best effort into every assignment. Her hard work and positive vibes make her a stand out above the rest. Way to go, Katie. Keep up being awesome. The seventh grade student of the quarter is Eli Argello. Woo! Eli is the utmost example of a respectful young man and such a pleasure to teach. He is kind and helpful beyond anything you could ever ask. Eli's attitude is superior. He participates, asks questions, follows instructions, never argues, gets right to the task asked of him, and he tries his hardest at everything. He is maturing into a thoughtful, inquisitive, respectful, and amusing young gentleman. Way to go, Eli. The eighth grade student of the quarter is Sophia Cox. That's up to the plate lately. She has increased her participation, inquisitiveness, and involvement in class discussions, and these positive changes have been wonderful to see. Keep up the good work, Sophia. The ninth grade student of the quarter is Bryson Tate. For this year and has definitely found his place. Bryson is a three-sport athlete participating in Ranger football, basketball, and track. Not only has he participated at the varsity level in sports, but he has also been an advanced math student and has worked hard maintaining his grades while having to miss school for games.
We can always count on him to put forth his best effort both inside and outside the classroom. Congratulations. And for student of the quarter is Ollie Pizza. Ollie is an outstanding student whose dedication and drive shine in every area she pursues. In Algebra 2 and robotics, she consistently stays on top of her work, actively participates in class, and seeks help when needed, showing a commitment to growth and learning. As the lead engineer on her robotics team, Ollie played a key role in the near qualification for the state tournament, showcasing her leadership and technical skills. Outside of academics, she's a dedicated member of the track team, competing in the 800 meter, 1500 meter, 3000 meter, and javelin, and continually improving her performance through consistent training. Whether in the classroom, on the field, or in the lab, Ollie strives to be her best. Her work ethic, determination, and positive attitude make her a standout choice for student of the quarter. Congratulations. Our 11th grade student of the quarter is Brianna Pearson. Also a new ranger this year, and she's been an amazing addition to Dufur High School. She's a dutiful student and works hard in class to do her best. Her pride in her work really shows. Her affable personality and willingness to step in and help anywhere it's needed are much appreciated by staff and students alike. Great job, Bree. Our 12th grade student of the quarter is Susan Wallace. Susan Peyton is the senior class student of the third quarter. Peyton is such a joy to have in class. She is always willing to jump in and get things done and does it without complaint. She is part of the ECE program again this year and has done an amazing job planning lessons and teaching the preschoolers. Peyton will be earning CTE awards for completing the ECE CTE program, so that time fast this year for graduation. Peyton is someone that you can always count on to be respectful, and she isn't afraid to stand up to her peers if she sees them doing something that they shouldn't be. I never got it. Peyton is the senior class president this year and has done an amazing job navigating all there is to do as a senior, including planning the senior class trip, working with graduation coordinators on graduation plans, anything but a car for their last day of school, and organizing out-of-school activities for the class. We are definitely going to miss having you around. Congratulations. Are there any other awards that we are presenting tonight? All right, that concludes our third quarter award ceremony. We thank you guys all for being here tonight. And at this point, we're going to go back into the regular board meeting. You're free to stay in attendance or go about your business.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Robert will call you right on up when it's time.
Excellent. Yeah.
You know, expired. Yeah, well, I think they're gonna give a show right now, but. Yeah.
Jennifer had, pneumonia.
Yes.
Justin Yeah, you know. Well, yeah, first, it's like, God, I'm just going, first, did it better. I mean, I'm so excited. So I feel like.
Special chair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Special chair for a special
Oh my
guy.
God.
Could have handrails on it.
Maybe it's a false seed or something.
Yeah, well, I'll test the durability of it, that's for sure.
Keep an eye on this.
It's 3 weeks.
Alright, and we got, is the video going and everything? So we're gonna reconvene the meeting. And so we met earlier in executive session, starting at 5, and then we have the awards ceremony that just got completed here and everything. And so on the list here, I've got just one person that wants to do, that Jeff Lipinski wanted to do public comment. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and read through our statement here, and then we'll give you a few minutes to address the board. Yeah, so bear with me for just a second. The public comment agenda item provides an opportunity for constituents to address Dufur School Board, Dufur School District Board of Education. The chair will call on individuals who have signed up to provide comments. When your name is called, be seated at the designated table and state your name. Speakers may offer objective criticisms of district operation and programs, but board will not hear complaints concerning individual district personnel. So copies of the policies can be found online. Public comment or public complaints are available. The policies and public complaints are available on the dufur.k12.or.us. Undue interruption or interference with the orderly conduct of the board business cannot be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. If the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks, they'll be asked to leave. Each presenter will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak, and all comments will be directed to the board chair. And so with that, Mr. Lipinski, if you want to go ahead and share your public comment.
I hope you read that to everybody and not just.
We just for clarification, we've been reading this for a couple of years now. So.
All right, then. I appreciate you all taking your time, busy scheduled time out to hear me out. I wanted to talk about the school 4-day work week and maybe some things you haven't thought of. I work at a 4-day work week place, and our Thursday is now our new Friday, where everybody's just gone now on Thursday. So you actually missed 2 days. Like anything else, I made a list, the pros, right? It's going to work great for salaried employees. And the kids will most likely love it, right? Because kids don't want to go to school. And then cons. Some of the children in our community only get consistent and balanced diet while at school, also structure, okay? The sports, Friday football games, volleyball, basketball, I have no idea what that mess looks like, right? It's just things to think about. The hourly employees, by my calculations, lose about 28 hours per month, which is a good sized pay cut. So retention with our EAs and the rest of those things, how do you keep somebody here when you give them a pay cut? You know what I mean? Things like that. And then some families, both parents work, childcare costs would increase. I just feel that the 4-day work week would adversely affect the Dufur community and our school. You know, from a structured, balanced nutrition and structure for the kids, some of them only get it here at school. I feel that that would be lost. I fear losing some of the EAs we have. They're amazing people. I know they don't get paid much, and to cut their pay, 28 hours a month, I think would be not very beneficial to us in retention to try to keep people here. That's just me. I love my community. I love the children here. I love our teachers and you guys, except Jack, he's leaving us.
And,
So that's it.
All right, easy go. All right, well, yeah, thank you for your comments and everything. Appreciate it.
All right.
Jeff, could I use your piece of paper to keep your notes down?
No, because my spelling is horrible. You actually can.
Thank you.
You actually can. Just get past the garbage. Like I said, it's kind of a hit.
You want to use that?
No, you can Josephine, she'll shred it. But you don't want it. Yeah. Am I excused?
You have a reputation.
Yeah, you're excused.
Thank you.
Bye, Jeff.
Thank you for hearing. Appreciate it. Yep. You didn't even have to tell me shut up once.
No, you were good. You listened, yeah. Okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move into the, are we gonna do employee of the month? No. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move into the consent agenda. And there was a couple of board minutes, one from the April 14th meeting, and then the second one from the board retreat minutes. And so you guys have all had a chance to take a look at that. Is there any comments or edits on those? Or I'd be willing to entertain a motion for consent agenda, going through the items. I will say there's one item under new business that we're gonna table, and that's the second item listed, the certified staff member request for leave of absence. We're gonna table after the items. I think that's the only correction that is seen.
On the consent agenda is the adjusted 25-26 school calendar. So we're approving this as well, or?
Yeah, we hope to do that, and we didn't get it in the packet.
Oh,
It
okay.
changed
So we're
one
adding it
day,
to the agenda, or?
adding to consent agenda.
Okay, so you're with, let me just clarify, last month, did we not approve?
We did.
So there was like
Oh,
I guess a calendar typo with the in-service, because we decided to have to keep our 4 days in August, but they were accidentally listed on the wrong days, so. What you have in front of you is the correct Monday through Thursday, August, whatever.
so before the school year
25th
started.
through-
it's
yeah,
sort of
before.
correct.
Yeah, since we decided
So,
moving one to January it was too messy with summer school.
okay, so it minor change, but it didn't impact the students, first day of school or.
No, it impacted the staff's like last hurrah 4 day Labor Day weekend, so. We're next.
So that, the school calendar with the correction on it is included in the consent agenda, and then someone needs to break that out.
No, and then also, then the minutes from the board retreat should be on this list as well.
Yes, that's right, I got, yeah. Are you running off a different sheet?
This.
got one
and two on
blue.
Yeah, I printed off mine off the emails, so that's what I was running. with, so.
So it's different things on two different lists, so just. This one says consent agenda, it says. Well, we could just list it in a motion.
Okay, so for clarification, we're gonna, consent agenda includes the board minutes from April 14th, the board retreat, April 21st, and then the corrected school calendar. For the record.
I'll make a motion to approve the board minutes from the 14th and 21st and the adjusted school calendar.
We have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Tim's gonna second. Okay. Any further discussion on consent agenda items? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, consent agenda. We'll move directly into the reports, and so we're gonna start with the finance report. And I think we all had some information in front of us here. It seems Turner, if you would like to go through what you have for this evening.
I added a little narrative today, or this month. Currently, we're gonna end the year shorter than we had hoped. We're about $80,000 short of our projections in local tax revenues, which we all know will correct next May, but it's gonna affect this year. We also have a negative May correction coming this year because we were over our estimates for last year. in local revenue. Does that make sense? So last year we collected too much in local property tax, or people paid too much in local property tax to what we were anticipating. So we got more, meaning we got more state school fund dollars than we should have. It's gonna negatively affect us this year. And then next year we'll get a positive correction because we didn't collect as much this year.
So basically, it's
We love
dependent
state school
upon,
funding, it's so good.
it's dependent on the actual state or the actual property tax paid that you get as a balance from the
It's
school.
dependent on what's paid. So what people pay, then our portion comes to us, but if they don't pay it, the county doesn't give it to us, unfortunately. So that's where that's at. We're at right at 83% of total expenditures to date. I've got your normal monthly report on the back of these pages. And then most of our special revenue fund spending was seismic reno. But of the remaining expenditures in the 200 level accounts, 81% of those are attributed to a salary and associated payroll costs. So again, salary, people are what we're spending our money on. Right now, I'm obviously still focused on budget development. Just minor changes this week, and then presenting the budget next Monday at the budget committee meeting. We may have to make significant adjustments following that meeting, depending on the May revenue forecast. Just kind of depends on what that says and what they do with the state school fund estimates from there. So we're kind of in holding pattern there. Other than that, this time of year, I'm just working on wrapping up grant reporting and claiming. Is the biggie for me.
Any questions? You have any questions in finances? Okay.
Nope.
Just a couple of things. I was wondering, I guess, on this balance of property tax and state funds. I mean, you essentially have a budget, you almost have a pool of money sitting there knowing that this is coming to. I mean, you budgeted upon, you knew what your amount per student was type of, you know.
Yes, so we budget on the state school fund forecast. So state school fund essentially in January of 24, we submit an estimate that says we're gonna have this many students and this many IEPs and this many, et cetera, for next year, this current school year. We're gonna collect this much in local property taxes, and we're gonna spend this much on transportation. And every school in the state does that. And then they collate all of those numbers and they say, we have this much money and this is how much everybody gets per ADMW, per weighted student, right? And then they subtract your local revenue from that number, add what you're gonna get for your transportation payment, and they say, this is how much we're paying you for the state school fund, and they break it into your monthly payments. So that's how we get our money this year, off of numbers that we gave them in January of 24. And then in May, so this month, they do a May correction for the 23-24 school year. So after everybody turns their audited numbers in, they say, oh, wait, you got too much money, or you got too little money, or you had way less students than we paid you for, whatever it is. And they correct everybody's numbers and say, you should have got this much and you got this much. So either we're giving you more money or we're taking money away from you. So they're gonna take money out of our state school fund payment for May.
Yeah, because we're always happy when we get more money.
That.
And, but I just.
So, and then it's great when we get a positive correction, but what it means is we went without that money last year. So you're trying to get it as close to zero as you can, and sometimes you get less than zero.
Just to summarize, are we in okay financial?
Yeah,
Between now
I'm
and the
looking
end
at
of the
like,
year and start?
yes, we're okay financially, but I'm looking at ending fund balance of like 450,000.
Okay.
Somewhere between 425 and 450.
Any other questions? No.
Just another comment, this is school funding. You know, I want people to think that they're uncovering some great problem. This is how school funding doesn't work. And it's never going to, as long as it's conducted this way. Sometimes school districts get in trouble, like it's industry, obviously, we don't have a lot of trouble with industry out here, but if industry comes in, it balloons the local taxes. and they go on their merry way and spend their money, spend their money, spend their money, and then the next year, it's like, oops, and then all that comes out as a correction if local taxes go up in the middle of the year. So this is how the system works or doesn't work, however you see that.
Doesn't work, but it's what we're stuck with.
Well, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
I wasn't indicating by any means we had an issue. I just wanted to understand
Yes, yeah.
and try to make sure we're still.
No, and I didn't think you thought that either, but that's one of the things that people around the state want to get upset about is school budgeting stuff. And it's a tough job. It pains me when there's articles in the newspaper about school districts that really fell off the cliff and they didn't catch it.
I think we're seeing some of that with the COVID funding right now.
For sure.
And right now, so, okay. All right, well, thank you. With that being said, I think we'll move into the next report. So the principal's report with Mrs. Kristen Whitley.
All right. So over the last month, in April, I attended the COSA Small Schools Conference, which is only for small schools in the district, in the state of Oregon. And that was paid for by a Ford Family Foundation grant. And that's the first time I attended that conference, and I definitely want to go back next year. It's really structured and tailored to unique needs for small rural schools. One takeaway was the importance of building staff capacity through clearly aligned goals. That's a biggie for me. And also a biggie is that they need to match our mission and vision. We are in the thick of it, like graduation is taking place this month on the 31st. So we're working hard to make sure that our staff and students are ready for that event. Bonnie and I are really closely monitoring graduation progress for all of our seniors, making sure they're passing their classes, finishing up their credit recovery classes, done with their community service, and done with their career-related learning experiences. It is also heavy state testing season for grades 3 through 11. Teachers and support staff have done a really great job prepping our students this year. And it's just been pretty efficient as we've started that process. We do not have a lot of opt-outs this year, which is far different from years past that followed COVID. We, like even last year, had quite a bit of students opt out of state testing. So that's just a great message that staff are pushing the message to all students to try their best on state tests because they do inform decision-making around curriculum, instruction, and budgetary allocations. Next week, we are going to be wrapping up our artist in residence series that we've had this spring for 6th through 8th grade students. And they've been doing some really engaging hands-on sessions, creating some artwork for our school. And there's a big surprise for them in store for next week. So when you guys come to your June board meeting, it'll be a very obvious surprise. I'm not going to be giving away yet. It's a surprise for them as well. A couple weeks ago, we completed our second and final lockdown drill for the school year in partnership with Wasco County Sheriffs and Oregon State Police. And it was successful. Officers were able to debrief with our staff following the drill, and their feedback just affirmed that our protocol is solid, well understood, well executed by staff. This spring, they upped their practice by actually having officers and deputies lead students out of the classrooms and into the gym for the debrief meeting. And in the past, it's just been an all-call announcement. So it's just a little bit more realistic in that goal setting or in that drill setting. Staff and students did a great job, and our continued feedback is we're still seeking grant funding to update our PA system. That's a very high priority. I got to chaperone prom for maybe the final year. And it was a really good, excellent turnout at the Civic Center, lots of positive feedback from students and the staff who were there, and just a special thanks to the junior class and their advisors, Sarah Anderson and Nancy Wilson, for making that happen. And this week is Dufur School Staff Appreciation Week, and it's just a really special time to recognize the incredible dedication and heart and hard work that all of our staff put into the success of Dufur School. And anywhere you go in our school, every member of our team plays a really important role in making sure our school is a safe and positive and welcome atmosphere for our students. And our teachers and EAs and support staff and administrative team just consistently go above and beyond to meet academic, emotional, social needs for all of our students. And they just really commit to maintaining the expectations for our students and making a lasting impact on our school's community. So I'm truly grateful for everything they do. So if you see a staff member, give them a shout out for Staff Appreciation Week. And we are quickly winding down to the end of the school year. So some of the things that we have coming up, tomorrow is our FFA banquet. May 9th is our final staff development day. We're going to be doing a training around artificial intelligence usage and education. May 14th is Title I night and a ribbon cutting for our Little Free Indigenous Library. We do have a Little Free library on campus, and we're adding a Little Free Indigenous library as well. And we have one at Saliva Village. May 28th is the last day of school for our seniors and senior recognition and spring awards night. May 31st, graduation on the football field at 11 a.m. And June 5th is the last day of school for everyone else. And June 10th is our first day of summer school, and that will run Tuesdays through Thursdays through July 3rd. And that's what I got.
Okay. Any questions for Kristen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not done. That's
Okay.
not all I got.
All right.
I did give you guys my handy dandy attendance printout. One of the metrics was not loading correct in Oregon Data Suite, so there was something on there and that was just glitching, so I had to like do a weird thing to get these printed, so apologies if they're really small. What I did this time, rather than print you an attendance for our whole school, I printed attendance broken down by elementary, middle school, and high school. So the first page is elementary attendance. And I can't show you that overall attendance pie chart, which is frustrating, but if you look at our days of attendance, you'll see that we are above the 91% threshold in grades K through 5, except for on Fridays. Our average attendance for elementary is 89%. The second page that is not in color is the middle school page. We are above the 91% threshold all 5 days of the week, going strong for grades 6 through 8. That's good. And then the last page is grades 9 through 12. So we are above our 91% threshold Monday through Thursday. Friday, we are at 84% average attendance for high school, which is not good at all. So hopefully that, like, as you guys look into the 4-day school week, I will for the rest of the year, and then tests can continuing next year break. I think it's really good to break these down and like see that attendance per age group. And then the very last page is just our current enrollment counts at school by grade level. So our biggest, again, is let's see, 5th grade, which should be, I don't know, 5th grade is at 37. They're a little offset. So, okay, that's for real, all I've got.
My eyesight is past the shot, and so can you just go through just Fridays for us?
Yes.
And the number you have.
I do wear contacts, so
Okay, well,
not great either.
I-
So our Friday attendance for grades K through 5 is at 89%. So that's 2 points below where we want them to be, 91 or better. Friday attendance for middle school is right at 91. And then Friday attendance for grades 9 through 12, 84%.
what term of time does that cover? Is that year to
That
date?
that is average attendance from our first day of school, September 3rd until
Yeah.
today.
I think I'd definitely be interested in seeing that almost as a rolling time throughout the year.
Like a monthly.
Yeah,
I think I'm able to do that.
It'd be interesting to see.
just to see how that gets impacted.
I think I'm able to do that. The good thing about
Oregon Data Suite is like this specific metric that I just read to you. Like I can print it by itself and I can specify dates, so I'll get a packet going and then you guys can see that.
Well, and like the Thursdays before Friday off are relevant to this discussion, kind of what.
Yeah,
what
it was
Jeff brought up, is
timely
like,
that
well,
he
it's
brought
Thursday,
that up
and
and
Friday,
then
and therefore.
printed them.
You know, one of the arguments was like, oh, people will miss less, and like, not, I mean, it just changes it shifts, it doesn't just shift back to a different day of the week. So that would be an
Well, and
interesting
with
study.
less-
I mean, it's,
With less days a week, you're getting rid of a full day that's calculating into our overall attendance average. And we get dinged by the state for being below
So,
91. So, yeah,
yeah, so there's some things to
they,
add to the mix.
takes that. to study.
91% is the state.
That's a standard.
That's the, yeah,
So-
that's the target attendance rate. And it's per student, but I mean, you want your whole average to
Yeah.
be. It doesn't, it's, when you think about like a 45-day quarter. And you have a kid miss 5 days, like.
Yeah.
They've already missed a tenth of their instruction for the quarter. It adds up.
All right, any questions for Kristen?
And again, to clarify, these numbers don't include like absences for school related, like sports.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
However, if we have, like, we've had a lot of discussion, about when we were doing tribal history, shared history training, like our Native American students have so many cultural events that they go to. That are highly educational, but because those are more family tribal activities and not connected to the school, those kids get dinged hard for those. So if you look at the metric, oh gosh, yeah. If you look at the metric for attendance percent by primary race, our Native American students, I think in all age groups, have the lowest attendance. But if they're attending like a first food ceremony or a funeral, which are vastly different than like typical Caucasian funerals, they don't get counted in our attendance, even though they're attending a highly cultural educational activity. I actually wrote some letters to our state legislature about that. Just discussing parameters of attendance, like.
Because it hasn't been that long that athletes would get whacked for being gone. I mean, that's in the last 5 years. When athletes were gone.
Yeah,
Fridays
that's
or
pretty
whatever,
recent
Yeah.
that they've changed that. So hopefully they'll
Which made
take
no sense. unless
more
others-
cultural stuff into consideration
Yeah.
too.
So to summarize, if it's a school function, the kid would still be in attendance per se, if they go to a game
Mhm.
or sporting activity or robotics or whatever it might
Yep.
be, but if it's a non-school related for whatever reason, they're absent.
Correct,
Okay.
excused or not.
correct.
So could you share with us that petition to the legislature so we can send it into that? My presumption is it's a coding thing, like code absent, but at whatever. So
Yeah,
we could petition them to create a code.
cultural.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't mean to dig into this too much, but a few kids went to the college a couple weeks ago to a job fair, and so that's absent. Or-
no, I don't think it was because it was a
School took them,
school.
It's a field trip.
It was a field trip.
Okay, but if they went on their own,
If they went on their.
I mean, I'm just like.
I mean,
you know
I
what
get
mean?
what you're saying,
Yeah,
there's
just kind of-
scenarios there, like,
Yeah.
yeah. There's some
Well-
holes in how our state dictates that we do
I've
attendance.
dug too deep, I'm sorry, so.
Yeah, it's fine. We can talk about it.
Just trying to make sense of it. so.
Yeah.
Okay, Jana, did you have any questions? You're really quiet down there tonight, so, yeah,
It's all good.
okay, all right, well, thank you. Kristen, I didn't mean, I just trying to understand.
Oh, no, I love
information.
this. I could talk about it.
And I think it would be helpful in the future needing to come back with some kind of time lapse of attendance. You know, moving through time, I think might tell a story, so.
Can do.
All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and move into number 3, superintendent AD reports, Mr. Jack Henderson.
Right, thank you. Scholarship season is upon us. Good Jared Walker selection day last Wednesday. I think we had 12, we interviewed 12 kids for the scholarships, we're gonna be giving away this will be more money than we've ever given out, giving away $90,000 in the $90,000 range. Which is again, more than we've given out, in the past. There'll be various scholarships. It hasn't been announced yet. Will be later this week about which students got how much money and things like that. There'll be multiple year scholarships as there have been several years in a row now for Jerry Walker Priest. So kids really presented themselves well, particularly on interview day. And so that was good to see. It's always a fun day to select those scholarships. And then the Rancho Pride Education Foundation scholarship selection is on this Wednesday. So busy scholarship season, exciting times, and every night is something this time, which is good. The Klingler Street, vacating Klingler Street, spoke with Kathy at the city again today, and that's it's the ball's back in our court. We have an explanation of what exactly it is we have to do. Basically, we have to get 2/3 of the landowners in the area to agree to it, which I know one of the landowners said, and she was one of the first people to call me about this topic like last summer, I think. So I don't think that would be a
Is
problem.
that adjacent property?
Yeah, yes, yeah, adjacent
Not
property,
like
yeah.
all landowners in Dufur.
No, it's just the landowners in the area. So, and again, as I stated before, that area up there is a fire hazard for us. That could be really bad if somebody threw something off the road up in there and had a poof, big fire in there. So we'll be working on that. The board has some qualms, and then I would bring a motion for you to make in June to move in that direction. And my goal would be to get it done before I'm done and Kristen's in charge, but we might not get it done that quick. Kristen can make that happen too. So, any questions about that?
Isn't it, with all the surveying we've done with projects, is that surveying up there, you know, where our property boundary is, how far it goes back?
Yeah, and it is weird because of that. It's a pie-shaped thing. It's just kind of weird. So we'll work on that this month. As I shared last week, the seismic grant we got the award last week, $2.499 million. It's a huge thing. It's $5 million in the community of Dufur in the last 5 years. Pretty cool thing. This project will strengthen the unreinforced block walls in the elementary school. Paperwork stuff will start this summer. Brian Knight from WKR engineers will be out here in the next month and meet Chris and I. So he meets Kristen prior to that, and then paperwork will begin this summer, and then anticipating that the construction stuff with the construction project itself would be completed next summer of 2026, after the kids leave. It'd be a little more difficult this time, probably. Last year, we were working on the gym. One of the big part of the project was the gym. So they got in there a little bit early and got going. And you can't really do that in an elementary hallway. So, and maybe there's some roof stuff that we can do. So we'll see about that. But one of the things, this doesn't have anything to do with the TAP grant. They were approving a contract with WKR engineers tonight. That's a different deal. That's a different deal. It's a $25,000 grant that we got to study up. The next one, that's the one where we're going to take a look at the Petersburg School and the old Dufur High School, and as well. Questions about seismic stuff? Okay, youth sports camps. This is the first year we did that. Nikki Hagee organized the youth sports camp, both basketball, had 60 or 70 kids in basketball in the winter for a month, and then we did the same thing with football this spring. Great program in terms of teaching kids fundamentals of sports. And just parent interest is phenomenal. We had the 4th day of the football camp coming up on 2 weeks ago on Friday. We had a ton of little kids play flag football for 4 hours, essentially what happened. We had concessions made $1,200. There were 300 or 400 people here watching our kids play football. It was pretty amazing. Zach Harvey and Neil did a great job with that. So it's a great thing, and I think it will grow in the future. I'd be surprised if our numbers next year didn't double in those. And so those camps are going to become certainly resources to help pay for athletics moving forward as well. And we actually, for the football camp, we had students from Sherman County as well as the Dalles and Lyle coming over here. They asked me if that was okay, and they go, well, yeah, as long as they pay, it's fine. So, and they paid, and it was fine.
Do you,
It worked out great.
do you make them wear a Dufur t-shirt?
They wore a
Leave?
Dufur t-shirt. There was a Dufur t-shirt sitting in the front row here tonight for the students of the board as well. So, yeah, so everybody has to wear a Dufur t-shirt, and they feel good in a Dufur t-shirt, I'm sure. And lastly, Chris and I are spending a lot of time on stuff. It's, we're a small school district. We're in one another's office multiple times every day. We're doing a lot of things, getting down to the fine tuning of things about, particularly at this point in time, phone numbers and things like that, of people to, that Kristen will have, contact with as she begins her superintendency coming up, and not that very long. So that's my report.
Yeah, I think a couple of things, the seismic grant, that was great news, just additional improvements to the building, and it improves the building in many more ways than just the seismic value.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, with what they're doing there, and the youth programs, I think are fantastic, and especially get those younger kids, give them kind of something where they get, to participate in, and I think the basketball one and the football one, from what I seen, was just excellent. Yeah, and stuff, so I just very positive new things for the school. So I think Nikki's doing a great job.
And then when I walk in the cafeteria, I like coming in here when the preschool kids are eating breakfast. We have preschool kids at football camp.
Yeah.
How you doing?
You're a legend.
Yeah. It was fun.
Any questions for Mr. Henderson? Dan? No, okay. All right, well, thank you for the report. Next, we're gonna move into, old business. And we got 3 different items in here, and the first is recruitment and appointment of superintendent. So these were a few cleanup items.
Yes, they were. So this is the third reading of CBB, and basically CBB and CBC prior to this superintendent hiring cycle were one policy here. And so they're broken apart with the most updated language from OSBA. And the first one, CBB, third reading adopt.
Any comment on CBB? Recruitment and appointment of the superintendent? And, yeah, Stan?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so Mr. Anderson mentioned this third time, we've got to take a look at this particular policy, and I think it helps us, as we move forward. Clearing the guidelines, I guess, with this, so I would be willing to accept the motion, for, the CBB policy.
I'll make a motion to approve policy CBB. Recruitment and appointment of superintendent.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Janet's got a second. Okay. Any further discussion on CBB? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving policy CBB as read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Policy motion passes, and then right behind that is CBC, superintendent's contract. And I know we've had some discussion on this in the last couple of meetings. I want to make sure the language in here is what the board wanted it to be, as we looked them through I think it was the bulleted items down below here. I think we removed, well, no, it's still in there. Finds no employment that provides health benefits was the kind of the key thing that we were discussing previously on this particular case. So is there anything in here that you guys want to discuss with this particular policy, or start with you, Tim?
I'd prefer not the extension, the may provide health benefits with those 2 stipulations, but it's a may, so it's not I don't want to drag out a big long discussion about it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think the discussion was kind of like by putting it in there. It's like I kind of want the may to be in bold, like we don't have to, but I understand why it's there. I think that Jack kind of said that it's a way, if you've got somebody who's thinking about retiring, that you kind of want to encourage to retire. It's a way to use that process. And I guess the question we had asked is if we didn't have that in this policy, could we still do it if we wanted to?
Yeah, the board can always do
If we
whatever they want.
removed, if we removed the language.
Yeah.
Should, so I guess, would there be objection to removing that language? Just because, like you said, I feel like it gives people the idea that we would. And it's probably not something that we're gonna wanna do. It's a very expensive thing to do.
I'm just gonna ask that question because since I wasn't here last week,
Yeah.
and there obviously was discussion at. What was that there for? Because I'm also uncomfortable with that. It's like, why is that there? And I missed that conversation. So I would have no problem removing it either. And because I was like, I don't know what we would use that for.
I guess what would be the argument to leave it in?
And I
If we
think
could do it,
Because it says may.
Yeah.
And plus these, the policies, there's huge policy books.
Yeah.
And nobody sits here and goes through the policy books every day or anything like that.
No.
And it says may, the board can, suspend any policy that they want to at any time. I don't care, we can whack all that stuff out, because you could whack all that stuff out, and then when Kristen's 73 years old, or no, 63, then you can pay her insurance for a year and a half or whatever, like that, would simply take a motion.
Yeah.
I think that can be discussed at the time, and I don't know, I mean, if the majority of the board feels we can scratch that line out, we can scratch that out tonight. And move forward with the policy, if that's something we're getting started up on. I hope it's really 40 years before we have to worry about it. Grandkids will be asking me, why did you put that in there, Grandpa?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, is there anybody who feels passionately that we should leave it in?
There was a point that it made sense, but then it changed a lot since then. Insurance got way more expensive. And because of that, they took it out of the equation for us. Lucky they would get something else. So I'm supportive as well.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's still something we could do.
Yeah,
We just don't have the language there for people to be like, I think it gives people ideas.
well, I
In a way that is sort of implies that it's something we would do. And that was kind of my concern about the language, even though it does say may, it just sort of puts us in the position of, well, the policy says you might.
Yeah.
And we have to be like, no, we're not gonna put it.
I agree.
But it doesn't mean they couldn't ask for it, and they would still say no.
Okay, so we'll whack 1 and 2.
Yeah, then the rest of it's fine.
That for a period of 1 year of termination of contract, superintendent may not purchase property or use property in a district or public charter school in a manner other than that present for the general public. Leave 1 and 2. Second part. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be negotiated at the time of the situation.
Yes.
They're gonna do what's best at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah, so, yeah. Anybody wanna make a motion? For what we just discussed, basically removing that 1 and 2 about basically the health or maybe by health benefit.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept superintendent's contract CBC, striking out. The district may provide health benefits for a superintendent that is no longer employed by the district until superintendent 1 reaches 65 years of age, or 2 finds new employment that provides health benefits.
And do we have a second on that?
A second.
Dan's gonna second. Any further discussion on this? I guess, is it clear for the record what we're removing? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of adoption of policy CEC, superintendent's contract as stated, with basically removing the health benefits section, including the 2 bullets. Signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, yeah, made it through that one. Very good. Next on the old business is policy JHH, and this is second reading. Governs school districts in dealing with suicide prevention. We had a pretty good discussion on this last time. And our school counselor Tiffany Kinslow was here, and I looked at her as someone that is extremely knowledgeable around the suicide subject and everything. And I think I asked her point blank, does this have everything that we need in it as far as a policy? And she said yes. And so something that I think people won't take very seriously, but it is second reading, so we come back, the next board meeting in June. For final approval, but is there anything in here you guys want to discuss or point out or what happened?
No, I don't have that. I mean, there's too many, those like it.
Yeah.
Dresses, which needs.
So, okay, I'm not hearing any further discussion, so this will come back in front of the board for the June meeting. And so without giving me time, it'll be the third reading, would be looking to approve that if that's what the board wanted to do. Next item on the list, we're going to move into new business, and so we're going to talk about policy JECB and JEC-AR review. And I think this is the one we tabled at the last meeting, and so Ms. Whitley wasn't able to attend, and I really wanted her to be able to kind of talk us through this and walk through some of the information that she's got. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to you, and I don't know if you could make sure to get a microphone. Yeah.
Okay, policy JECB, JECAR. Dictates how we make decisions as a district for admission of non-district students into Dufur School for the upcoming school year. There is a growing out-of-district transfer request for grades kindergarten through 12th. I think our policy says that we can make a decision about transfer requests in June. So we're still kind of monitoring our numbers before you guys as the board make that decision. But just our growing population and our in conjunction with our growing waiting list definitely needs to be on your guys' radar as we support summer, or as we come closer to summer and making final decisions about that. Okay, so just for your guys' knowledge, we have attached an updated list of our 357 kindergarten through 12th grade population for you by class, and also we have information out of each class, how many students live outside of the district. So what you're seeing on that page, for example, the top line shows that our kindergarten is at a total of 22 students, and one of those students lives outside of the district. Pay particular attention to our very large first grades, 33, current third grade 36, and current fifth grade is 35. That fifth grade class will be moving up to the middle school, and as I've discussed at our work session a few weeks ago, keeping that class split is really important, but also puts a lot of stress onto our current staff for accommodating 2 6th grades, and all of the core classes our 6th through 12th graders need to take each year to progress towards graduation. We've also got a pretty big incoming 9th grade class in comparison to our current freshman classes. So we're just at the point where you guys were reviewing the policy as well as just keeping those numbers on your radar.
One of the things I was looking at in the policy was that by March 1st, we're supposed to establish the number of students who we could consent to letting in, and we don't have enough information at that point.
Right.
Certainly for kindergarten. And so it seems like we're going to need to adjust the dates in the policy so that they're more realistic.
Yeah, it seems like by June 1st.
Yeah.
At the earliest.
You really don't know how many kindergartners are coming in until.
And we have such,
Honestly, till the first day of school, but
it's true, there, in this area, there's a lot of summer mobility, and we're seeing that increase. Like after spring break, we really saw an uptick of families moving in and out of the district, and those numbers are just so volatile. Yeah, I agree, it's the current policy of making that decision in March is not realistic for our area.
yeah, and almost, I mean, we need to know as a school how many classes, we're budgeting for and for hiring. So like finding the sweet spot between having enough time to hire an extra teacher if we need it. And then, but also like waiting as long as we can to make that decision, so we don't end up with these weird loaded classes like third grade. That's like a third out of district kids. That if we
Right.
took them away, that would be a normal sized class and it would be fine. I mean,
Well,
not that, I mean,
that would depend on.
independent, yeah. I
We
know.
have staff members that would debate that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why there's, on those classes, in the classes that are split, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why they're that big, is
Well, and one
because
of the things,
we made a conscious effort to do that.
one of the things we discussed last week, and maybe you could bring some clarity to this, is yeah, 36 kids is one thing, but like weighting the kids who were, you know, the with IEPs and then, you know, the
Yeah,
challenges.
when you
that-
look at-
because we factor that into class size,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's not really
That's not
illustrated
factored
by
in.
this list, so.
that is not, yeah, ADMW is not factored into this list, but it would be, I think, really good for it to be on this list next month.
Yeah, I think that would be super helpful, because, you know, if you look at this list without any context, you're like, oh, well, we never should have let those 10 kids in, but it may be that a bunch of the kids in there super high needs that are in district, and then the split doesn't look as problematic, depending on which bodies, I mean, and obviously we can't get an individual identifying data, but
Yeah, we could do ADMW though, that's pretty, most of them are ADMW, because you have different categories such as special education, homeless and foster care, pregnant and parenting, and there's a couple others that we are always zeros in, but the special education piece is what contributes to the difference in our ADMW compared to ADMR.
Thing is with the new students that we take in, we don't know that until after they're here, correct?
Correct, there's only, when you're talking to out of district children, there's a lot of legalities around what you can ask, correct?
so you just have to, that has to be just a lottery or a waiting list, it can't be like, oh, I can let in this
Yes.
kid, because they're not gonna be in
Well,
special ed.
And we've been
Can't do that.
interviewing families the last couple of years, which has helped, as we turned students away last summer, students and families away last summer. Because we didn't feel like they'd be good fits here.
Is June
Or is that what it is?
too late, do you think, for a good hiring?
It's cutting it pretty close.
Right, I mean, because
The pool
a
is gonna
lot
be
of them
smaller.
are already committed, so you're kind of like. What's the pool, the later you get, the pool shrinks, correct?
Mhm.
That's possible.
You're right.
Yeah, and I guess I was gonna ask Kristen, do you have some recommendations for this policy that you'd like to make to the board? I guess from my perspective, for me anyways, I want to see the resident students be the top priority. But sometimes economics, economics of the school and stuff, if we bring in some additional students, it helps. We don't have 28 kids in one class. We can bring in a few more kids and have 2 classes, then that type of thing. So, but I don't know on the dates because it starts getting tricky, but I mean, I think there's some obvious of March
Yeah,
1st.
I think that there should be some clear language about when we start to review the policy and class sizes, that are in conjunction with revenue forecasts. So we're gonna see accurate numbers from the state around what we are going to be getting. And then we can do some more math around how many kids we need to afford the staff that we're providing.
And as a reminder, Virginia would attest that there was at least 1 year while I was a long time ago as superintendent, that we found out how much we were getting from the state in September or
Yeah, it's a
October.
great business model.
Yeah, yeah, I know, it's a fantastic.
So
business
good.
model, and everybody's sitting here whipping in the wind, waiting.
But I would say, yeah, March or April, looking at those forecasted numbers, and then April, May, looking at class list, broken down by ADMW to make a final decision. It's hard to say, do you want to make a final decision before the budget's adopted or after? There's trade-offs to both sides.
How many students do you feel like we let in, like, a lot of this discussion centers around kindergarten? But then, classes wax and wane in size and, you know, obviously some of these classes are smaller than other, although they're, I mean, we don't have any like 17s like we've had in the past.
No, not right now. Our
Well, like,
smallest,
you know, we could take a few in 11th grade in theory, again, not knowing the needs of that class.
and
But
I feel like high school is the least volatile of
Right.
movement because you either had kids make the decision that they want to go to D21 for various reasons or stay here and that movement stops. We see a
it
lot.
almost seems like we even out.
We really
with
do,
changes in high
yeah,
school.
and I even have 8th graders on my radar right now that I know have made the decision to go back to D21 because of whatever program or athletics that they're offering there. But I would say our most volatile movement is definitely in elementary school. And what the kindergarten is probably the scariest because I can't remember how many in-district kindergartners have registered. It's gotta
I
be
think it's 21.
20, yeah, I was gonna say 21, and this is May 5th. And it seems like kindergarten always is a surprise blow up
Explodes.
because we either have more families move in or we have families with first time kindergartners that don't understand that registration process. So we have later registrations and then it's August and we have 29 in district students and however many on the waiting list, and then you make the decision whether or not to split and admit however many to pay for that second staff member. And I think that's how our first, third, that's basically the story of first, third, and fifth grade every time. It started in kindergarten.
Yeah, I think it's a big decision at that kindergarten, because those kids are then with the program through 12th grade. And so the piece of information that I think is missing here is the kids that we've released. Because we're showing out of district coming in, but I mean, I know
Yeah.
that there's other kids that we've released to a different district also. It'd be nice to have them.
Yeah, it's not good, and I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, I lost it.
If you had to, like, if we were doing this right now, and you want to go ahead before you lose it again?
Maybe it's
Okay,
about
go
the same
ahead.
topic. I
Okay.
also want to say that we have not split a class since we split our preschool, since we became a preschool promise school. So we used to, remember, have our 3 and 4-year-olds both taught under the same program. But now we have a 3-year-old classroom and a 4-year-old classroom that go 5 days a week. So we've taken out one of our classrooms. Right now, we don't have any more classrooms in the elementary wing. Well, we do because 5th grade's going up, but that would be it. If you had 2 years in a row where you split kindergarten, so 26, 27, you would have to find a new home for one of those kindergarten.
Yeah, or find maybe to put in a preschool center. but
Yeah, that would
that's
be
one of the
ideal.
things. What grant was that we?
That's the Oregon Builds grant.
The
Yeah,
infrastructure.
that we didn't get.
And we'll go after,
We'll go after
we'll
it.
go after in
Fall.
August.
Yeah.
Early September.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would provide $2 million to construct a building similar to the school-based health center over here somewhere. That would be our early learning center, so we can move our preschool and then essentially have room for 2 classrooms of each elementary grade, K through 5.
Should we be considering the Forest Service billing some more to see if we could open a door to where we could use space for the left people in the build space? I mean, I know it's a couple blocks away and I don't know how that plays in. But it is a good building that, there's some good meeting rooms there. There is a facility there for the younger kids for. You know,
There's also, yeah, it would be good to compare the two because if you build an early learning center of your own, we have acquired a significant amount of grant dollars through Preschool Promise, but there's also Toddler Promise and Infant Promise. So if we are really planful with that building to eventually open up like childcare, that,
So,
yeah, that would be a good comparison.
And Stan, I had a conversation with the leader over there last summer when they were here for fire camp, and he was not even lukewarm to the idea
Oh, really?
of us accessing a part of it.
Reinvent the wheel. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with those other funding packages, that changes the dynamics a lot.
Well, and part of the reason to get this street up, get Klingler vacated up there is that we get half of it. Kind of thing, and that opens up the space back there to expand the campus
Yeah,
on this campus.
yeah.
Anyway, Jana, was that even remotely close to what you were?
If we were doing this right now, like this other policy says, you know, as of March. If we were actually sitting there talking about our numbers. Do we have any room with the information you have? What would you be recommending? Do we have room to take in? Do we have a big list of people who want to come in? Do we have room to take any of those in your mind at this particular time?
At this particular time, we have room to take in high schoolers. With the addition of 2 6th grades into our middle school, I would recommend freezing out of district for middle school until we've got that staff and schedule figured out and done for at least a year.
And what are your thoughts on the classes that are split? Ready?
I wouldn't,
So,
first grade at 33, like, I'd like to take a look at ADMW and see,
yeah, that could.
because you always have to go back to, if you're split, are you paying for your staff? But I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know ADMW in first grade.
So I was just, you know, knowing what we know of who's coming and going,
We also have, I believe, 70 students on special education plans. We're expanding our special education department to have 2 full-time teachers.
and can you address why you feel that is? Why is that number so high? Is it because we're recognizing it more? Are we putting more into that category? Or are we just, are students just having a lot more issues? What is the reason for that larger number?
There's a lot of studies, and I should probably prep something for you guys to go over next
That seems
month about, and it's statewide increase. And that's another frustration with finances, with special education reimbursements. We're capped at 11% for our special education reimbursements, and that's a percent reflected on the total state special education population from 1998, I believe.
Not really.
It's not reflective of the
And what's our
current,
percentage right now?
our percentage.
18 or 19%.
Yeah, like that.
And
And
it's,
that's pretty, like 15 to 20% is pretty consistent if you look at Oregon average special education numbers. And there was a lot of discourse and upheaval in legislative session this spring about it.
there's still discussion about capping, moving the caps, if is it 15 or 16%. But if they do that, they have a finite amount of money though. And
So-
So,
so-
so if you put more
Doesn't
money
change
in the
the
sped, it's going
It's
to
just
come out of
borrowing
something else.
somewhere else, so you lose, yeah, it's. not
So it
good.
sounds good,
It doesn't change it.
they really don't.
So in regards to this policy, do you want us to take this with us, look at maybe how the structure is happening now, come back and say, based on your timeline, what we're looking at numbers. Just change it around so it reflects what.
Yeah, I think some recommendations on how to adjust it that better fits our district and kind of our population movement. And then also, yeah, keep your eyes on this list. I'll add ADMW for next
Yeah.
month, and then I would say no later than June, come up with a number.
Did you have any thoughts on the other one, just the district registration and admission for people's residence stuff, or is that? I mean, there's probably certain legal limitations to what, like whether you can change that. Anyway, so
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting my
proof of
bearings.
purchase of home or rent receipt, utility.
Yeah, we currently require 2 proof of residencies, and that's per Oregon state law.
Yeah, so. Yeah,
But I think it seems like a lot of people move out of district that stay here.
Yeah,
That definitely happens, seeing this, my kids were here.
right. Yeah, and do we need to audit and require that of everyone? But that would be a board decision.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I want to kick kids out of a positive environment for them. It's just.
Well, that's
Well,
the,
then how do you audit? I mean,
Yes, so-
if they have,
Yeah, they can come up with the paperwork.
if they have the paperwork, being camped outside their house for 6 days and say, we never slept here.
No,
Special task force.
yeah.
I was talking to a student yesterday, I think it was in Dallas now. But we were playing basketball with them. It's like, hey, you gonna, he said, my parents live here. So well, where are you gonna go to school next year since they just moved here? And he says, oh, my grandma's in Vancouver, aunt and uncle's in the Dalles, and my parents are in Dufur. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you got options then.
so that's, yeah, and I think that's an interesting point, Tim, and it kind of mirrors a little bit what's going on in intercollegiate athletics now with the NIL stuff. There are people that have played 6 or 7 years in college and have attended 5 or 6 universities. High schools are becoming that as well. They really are. So it's tough. And that's the other thing too, and I'll just shut up about it. I'll never say this again, but half the plaques for students of the quarter tonight, they're gonna be sleeping out of district tonight. We have, we have families that don't live inside the Dufur school district boundaries that have literally raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for this school district. And made those programs. And I think that needs to, obviously, I'm not gonna be part of that discussion, but that needs to be part of the discussion. Because people sometimes, if they're down on the thought of some kid that lives in the Dalles going to school in Dufur, that, I mean, it's a nice soundbite that, yeah, those kids are causing problems, but the reality is half of our National Honor Society would be gone. So there's things like that.
Good portion of the Ranger Pride Foundation, we're all out of.
Yeah.
District, it's kind of tough, it's not straightforward.
Just look at the value of those 72 kids, just put an app on that,
900,000.
talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, it's a tough,
A lot of bloody cuts.
it's a tough discussion.
But also those top, a few grades in there where there's 25 to 32, 5 to 8 of them are out of district, and you bring that back, and say, man, that kind of makes everything a little lot better too, so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know,
I mean, it's always,
a
we've
tough
had this
discussion.
conversation many times.
I know.
You know, it's a lot of great kids and
The ADMW,
finding,
when you bring that, now that's going. I don't know what the manifestation of that would be, but it could be huge and what the workload is for those same kids.
Yeah,
I mean, it could be, I have no idea.
well, being able to provide
Even if-
services that
even if it's another
every kid
half.
deserves.
Maybe it values another half. I mean, that's still a lot of kids, a lot of help, a lot of labor to get that done.
Well, and that's why we're keeping 5th grade split next
Yeah,
year, because
yeah.
when you look at ADMW, there's no way we're gonna put an ADMW of over 40 kids into the same math class.
One of the things that's added a challenge, I think there's 4 or 5 kids on the kindergarten wait list right now. One of the things that's created, we've done to ourselves is the whole preschool promise program.
Yeah.
You know, and even when it was the Do for Sprouts, when families were paying, you had to pay tuition to send your kids to preschool here. Those families like, oh, we'll get into that, and then we'll be able to go to kindergarten.
oh, they think it translates.
They,
We've had to do a lot of education around, yeah,
You
preschool.
take those 30 high school kids out of here and then look at our high school, I mean, that's not healthy.
yeah, no, it's
I mean,
not,
that's 70 kids.
it's not healthy and it's
That
not
is not
sustainable.
healthy for.
Yeah.
The running of our school district.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but it's a money, those are dollars and those by teachers and. That is huge. A third of our high school is from someplace else. And
And the other thing to remember too, though, is that I've had, when somebody has come in and said, I'd like to be released to go somewhere else, I'm going, okay. And they're gone. There's never any discussion at all
Yeah.
about that. So that's the other thing, when you can look at the numbers and say, wow, that's a lot of kids coming here. Well, there's a lot of kids going there
That's right.
too. And that started, as you'll recall, back in the
Yeah.
Petersburg merger days. So there's a lot of history with that.
But it made those folks and us folks very compatible, and I mean, it really worked out, and there's some pain. There's a lot of pain that happened before we got to that point, but we had to learn lessons and then we figured it out, but.
So add that to the next, how many students are, do you know, how many students left?
Oh, how many are?
How many are
out?
going to different districts?
We'll come up with
Very
that,
well,
we'll
yeah.
come up with the numbers with that, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll add ADMW and then
And then out of district.
on the
I mean,
students. from
there's some,
Dufur.
might be some that are elementary and they're going to St. Mary's, but they're gonna come back here for high school or, you know, there's always one
Right.
of those.
But it's just, you know, the whole mobility of students and families 10 pointed out. I was at 3 different towns, kid basically had 3 choices as to where to go to school at. And then I remember around during the period of time with Petersburg, people from the Dalles got addresses in the Dufur School District so they could attend the Petersburg school. And then that folded up pretty fast. There's always some checking on those, but so that was hurtful. One of the problems with the Petersburg school, not one of the problems, but one of the realities was there weren't enough kids there to keep the building. Even with families getting an address in the Dufur School District and going to school there. It didn't help anything.
So the kind of the next point in time decision is really the kindergarten class. I mean, really trying to understand if we're gonna go to split kindergarten this next year or not. Is what it's, you know, is really a decision, and we've already got 21 industry students signed up. I'm gonna guess you're gonna have 3 to 5 more to that list at least
It's pretty.
by the start of school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think.
In kids.
Yeah, yeah, and I just think we need to have we've had conversations around this for several different years, kind of need to have a date when we say, okay, by this date, we need to make a decision and stuff. I guess the other thing, I presume this is gonna be an ongoing discussion, probably years to come, and so I guess I would just I'd suggest continue to bring this information to the board and really have the board as part of the decision, so they can own the decision, and every year is going to be different, and the school funding piece is such a big part of this, and trying to keep it balanced, I think is the goal. So. And I guess too, and on some of these dates and stuff, I'd love to hear your recommendations on maybe we don't have to, approve, in the next month or few months, but if there's some of these target dates you have that are in here that obviously March 1st doesn't work, but if it was around the end of, 1st of May, or what that might be, just so we understand, because you're the professional and you're looking at the sequence of when you have to get classes set for next year and all those different things that we aren't the specialist on. So, but I think we know enough to know March 1st may not work, so. Anyways, I take that.
Another, if Crystal had that information, is to talk about those grants for the, like you mentioned out there, those, like you did in kindergarten, what, I don't know if you got a history, you got something we can reference and say, well, there's $500,000 in the report. New building or something, just an idea, what would be the outlay, the cost doing that versus, what if there is 25 in district kindergarten coming in next year, and maybe our attitude should be let's just go ahead and split them up. Project the future, and what's that cost to consume that? That's, I mean, that's a lot of kids, 25, let's say even 25 in there, kindergarten. That's not manageable, is one teacher.
There should be a kindergarten weight in ADMW. Holly is amazing
Yeah.
for what she
For the
does.
teacher.
But kindergarten should have her special.
But even on the class sizes, it's, as we go through kindergarten, elementary, middle, I mean, the class sizes increase, smallest in kindergarten and highest with high school levels. You definitely.
Well, that's
try to
a
maintain
very
that.
good problem to have.
It's tough. And another challenging thing, not that we need to belabor this anymore, but another thing to keep in mind as part of the discussion. And teachers will tell you this, that you can have 25, 30 graders, one class, and it's like the best thing since sliced bread. And then you can have 25 students with more challenges, and it's a whole different trainer.
Yeah, 20.
Or 20 or 15,
Yeah.
really. And That's another thing that just makes this,
So it probably equals 30 to. whatever it's been.
yeah, and it's just not, and you can get into a school year. And say you split a class, and there's 20 kids in each class or whatever, and then 2 higher needs kids move in. And they just change the character of the classrooms, and it's difficult, it's difficult, say that word a lot.
Well, and I think the other thing, and you alluded to, is the space, you know, current space we have, and what we can do within that space.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's hard for me to understand that because the classroom looks different today than what it did. You don't have a computer lab and, you know, those types of things where it's all mobile now and stuff. So we're trying to make the most use of your existing space.
And it's just out of pure curiosity, because I was in a split 4th, 5th grade class in middle school. Has that ever been a thing in Oregon where you do have 1 teacher for 2 very small
We did
class
that.
sizes?
We've done that.
In 2021, I think was the last time we did it, and it was a split split
One, two.
first, second grade.
In the same
class,
classroom?
In the same
Okay.
classroom, yeah.
And we'll look at that, as we alluded to earlier, we'll look at that this month around dealing with class size. See if there's anything to do there
A lot of
around.
small schools do it. They just don't have.
Oh,
the kids.
every small school, east, if you have teams in our common and those guys, they all have 1, 2, there's schools that have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, all in the same thing.
Okay, and then, just to clarify on, policy JECAR, and that's the district registration and admissions. Sounds to me like there's some legalities to this, and so we're currently requesting 2 of the 3 items that are listed, so approved purchase of home, rent receipt, utility receipt, approved voter registration, so we request 2 of those, and then I'm guessing any adjustment to that, we probably want to seek legal counsel on, and it's kind of one of those tough things, if you get 2 of those, you know, we're not necessarily the IRS, so. Yeah. I guess let me go back, Kristen, do you feel you have some good input
Yeah,
on this? Is there anything else you wanted to address in these policies that or questions you want to ask?
no, I think it's good that you guys have class size numbers on your radar, so you can make an informed decision. I would say no later than June. And also at next month's board meeting, if I could get a little input from you guys around suggested changes, because the current time doesn't fit our needs.
Anybody else have anything want to ask Gina? I'm behind Jack down there, I can't see it. Nothing. Okay, all right, well,
If the numbers are even suggesting a split K this year, is that even an option, or are we just kind of saying we're running out of room at the end of the train? I mean, is
We
that
have
the
a
right question?
classroom, we have a classroom,
Because, I mean, that's what you were kind of saying, we're kind of,
but not a teacher.
So if we split it, we'd have to hire another teacher.
sure,
Correct.
but
And we've already got
We're already
a
hiring.
few, yeah, that we're looking for.
with the year after, it'll be a big.
The year after it would be a big problem, because we would have to.
And I'm not
find
saying we
out.
should, I'm just asking if
Yeah.
that's even.
It would be a space problem, yep. And then you're always looking into the future, so eventually this fall, kindergartners are gonna be in middle school.
Well, and that's, I mean, we're
Stretching it.
just seeing that, this
Yeah.
next year is gonna be our first year to see what that looks like when it
Yeah,
hits.
and that, I mean, we're stretching it, knowing that when this year's 3rd graders are 6th graders in 2 years, like. Yeah, I can't do it. The schedule is a challenge. It's the most challenging schedule I've ever built, and I definitely couldn't do it if there was another split class, so.
Right.
yeah, well, we have a little bit of time to make that decision. And so, yeah, thank you for bringing this information forward. I think it's a conversation we all wanted to have and learn about stuff. And just, it is a big decision, 'cause it impacts students and families and budgets, and space and all that. So try to make it all work. Okay. I'm gonna move forward. The next item on the new business, we're actually gonna table, as I mentioned earlier, and that was a certified staff member request for leave of absence. I'd like the staff, administration staff, go back and have further conversation there before the board makes a decision on that item. Moving to new business number 3, policy JHCCF, and this is the first reading. We'll get there.
Makes my head itch just talking about it.
So the history on this is that for a long, long time, schools, when, if a student had, head lice, they had to go home kind of thing. And that's not the thing. There probably was a time that if they had nits in their head, they had to go home. And there's still people that would support that outlook. Unfortunately, the law doesn't. So that's what this is about. And what we've been doing, our policy, the JHCCF that's in the packet isn't accurate to what we've been doing. This does exclude kids. And we haven't been doing that for 2 or 3 years, or maybe even longer than that. And the reality is, it wouldn't be totally out of bounds to get rid of the policy or create the policy, adopt the policy, the second one that we have in here, a model from OSBA. And again, it's an optional policy, you don't have to adopt it, but you can adopt it and say that the district will follow guidance from the communicable disease guidance for schools issued by the Oregon Department of Education and the Oregon Health Authority, which says kids shouldn't go home when they have lice.
I mean, this is basically, I mean, this model policy is basically saying you have lice, we'll send you home with pamphlets and hope that you
Correct.
take care of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can tell you that there are kids who always have it, when they just nits on their head for a day. And people still have it again. In my experience, when my kids were in school, I mean, there's just some kids that have it and their parents don't have the means to keep it out of their homes and to exclude kids from school long term. I mean, it's gross and it's, you know, it's no fun. I've been there. Kids have a lot of hair, it takes a long times, but, the best thing you can do is try to keep it from spreading in the classroom.
And how do you do that when when you have some kids who, you know, it's just out of control because the longer they have them, the more they breed and the worse it gets. And pretty soon you have a whole abundance of children in a classroom, especially in the younger grades, because they don't understand and it's just rampant. And it's, even though it might not be communicable, it's very distracting it's very itchy. I mean, yes, we've had lice at our house too, and we went through the whole thing. And so I do know, but it is, it is it's a big deal. I mean, to the kids, it's itchy, it's uncomfortable, it's distracting. It's a problem. It's not.
Yeah.
Not a deal.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's a deal.
It is. It's not fun.
So I guess, I mean,
You said something, Jack, about the legality of it, like, are you saying that like the law now says you can't?
That's correct.
You can't keep, so
Yeah.
we can't keep kids at home. I mean, you send them to the school nurse, you advise them. I mean, I've got a lot of experience, some recommendations of excellent products you can use. I'd be happy to buy a case for the school.
And we
We
do that.
provide, yeah.
The problem and the challenge though is sometimes the infestation is never gonna leave the home.
Mhm.
That's really the deal.
Sure.
If you don't wash all your bedding and all that stuff all the time, it's just gonna continue to
If you don't
go,
have a washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And access to that.
which we have people without.
Not gonna be able to.
Sure.
So, because we've done everything, we've, had people checking it a lot, have kids called out of class, which is embarrassing to them.
sure.
All that stuff, and it's not the kid's fault.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, if there's legal guidance around this, I think we need to follow the legal guidance,
Yeah.
even though it's a pain in the butt. And I think anybody with kids has had to deal with this, and it's super frustrating. I want to say, appreciation for the efforts in the past that have been done. I know there's been community members coming up, helping look, evaluate kids and trying to help with treatment and many different things and stuff. And I think the more we can, or if we can continue some level of that, will definitely help. It doesn't resolve the entire issue. I mean, I almost think we should, in my own opinion, look at that second policy that's gonna state that we're gonna follow the guidelines of the medical lead guides for schools. I mean, we, you know, in my opinion, we can't go in a legal issue around headlights. So it's as big a fan that it is. So
Pretty good idea.
is there, what's currently going on today? You guys buy a product? Is there people that are helping? I mean, it seems like for some time it was quite expensive.
Yeah, we buy treatment and send it home with kids. We're not treating at school anymore,
Okay.
just because nobody has the time in their day to get that accomplished. We did that for a while during our alternating COVID schedule when they were there half the time. But we sent product.
We do provide consultations if parents have never treated it before and need some guidance. I know that Campbell is really good about doing that. And the optional policy, although it is optional, is double-sided. So it provides some clarification around someone who would look up our current policy and see that it does not match the CDC guidelines that we currently follow. And it also provides some just backup for the policy that we actually do follow. Because they don't match right now.
That's what I was wondering, 'cause we changed this, or the school changed in like 2018, 17.
Yeah, I can't remember. Whenever the CDC updated their guidelines, we adopted those.
So we should have no policy or adopt this, second policy that we're looking at right now. Number two is probably the best choice.
You think having no policy, you think that's?
No, I'd say
No,
adopt this
no,
policy,
yes, that's
saying
right.
that we're using communicable disease guidance for school.
But that would replace the current.
It would replace the current and provide continued guidance and also clarification, because the old policy was the norm for decades.
Well, people might come in and say, oh, well, we used to send.
Exactly, and then you
Yeah,
can.
my kid got less than this kid, why didn't you send that kid home?
Mhm.
And now you can show them that policy.
Mhm.
How many,
I did ask the teacher.
how many kids do you, how many kids do you think are affected at any given time? I mean,
Probably quite a few.
What's that seasonal?
wondering
It's
where we're.
kind of more a winter
Yeah.
thing.
Everybody's inside.
Everybody's inside and close to each other.
Yeah.
So we do try to, if there is in bigger infestation, try to be really careful about like how close backpacks and coats are hung up next to each other. If possible, seating arrangements, like just putting more space between desks is a method that we use as well.
And not pile up coats, because kids love to, whether it's in here or in the classroom, to go in and throw their coats on top of somebody else.
And then the staff that work so hard to like
Yeah.
space out the coat hooks.
Yeah. Yeah,
And when, if we send product home, does it feel like it gets used? It feels like it does.
Anything else, Jen?
No.
I see it. I see your wheels turning over there. So,
sitting here.
yeah, so I think, we got a couple options. There's been some conversation around adopting this revised policy. To follow the, basically the guidance for schools. That would then replace the policy that we are currently not following. what the
Do we
policy
want, I
says,
mean,
so-
do we have to wait to adopt that policy?
Yes,
To do
we'll adopt that on June 23rd.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is first reading, so.
We're doing a June 23rd and July.
Yeah, we have to.
We have to adopt and appropriate the budget at the end of June.
You have to. Somebody has to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna move on unless someone else tells me otherwise. We'll come back and visit this again. Next on the list here, new business number 4, athletic cooperative with the Dallas High School. And actually, I'm gonna let you just dive into that one there.
Okay, I'll dive into that one. We have 8 listed here. In which you know, a person could look at it and say, wow, that's a lot. Well, not really. We had, 2 girls in cross country this year, nobody in boys cross country. Yeah, one in boys cross country, a homeschool student. Girls soccer, there was no one this year. Next year, there's a couple that want to do that. Boys soccer, no one. Girls wrestling, we have 1 girl wrestler this year, no boys wrestling. We currently have 2 student athletes playing baseball in the Dalles, and I believe we have 4 young ladies playing softball at either the varsity or the junior varsity level. So we really have, I can't know what the math is there, but we have fewer than 10 kids in these co-ops. They're serving them well. And we have had good discussions this year with the Dallas School District, the Dallas High School, about co-ops and things. We had a request for, we actually approved a request for girls tennis with the Dallas High School. They had too many student athletes on the team, and so they said no this spring. So there are situations where the Dallas will say no. One of the things, though, that's happened this spring on the baseball and softball front is there have been multiple occasions where the Dallas had to cancel junior varsity games because they didn't have enough kids, even with the kids from Dufur. That's true both in baseball and softball. They need Dufur kids to have those sports. One of the reasons that this is on this evening is that the AD this year at the Dalles wanted to only go 1 year in case there were concerns that if Dufur's ADM was added to the Dallas ADM, that they were not going to be a 4A school anymore. They're not even close to the limit at this point in time when they add our ADM to their ADM. So my recommendation is to approve these co-ops and continue to provide great opportunities for Dufur kids.
Is there any reason boys soccer isn't on the list for the recommendation and motion?
Yes, because nobody wants to play boys soccer at this point.
Oh.
And
So unless we had a request, we would.
yeah, and there's also some discussion with the Dallas and boys soccer. Apparently their numbers there are really healthy. And so it may be a situation where they said no. Yeah.
So this is a 1 year.
These, yes, this will be for 1 year as well, because it'll be the last year of the time block. And then they will be approved again for 4 years, or could be approved again for 4 years.
And then the board of directors from the Dalles and their AD would have to take a look at this and also approve.
That's correct. Yeah. And these have to be approved. We're way ahead. They have to be approved before the first day of practice starts, which is August. No, first contest date even, so it's late August, the last week of August. Yeah. But they provide great opportunities for our kids.
I'll make a motion to approve the co-ops with the Dalles for girls and boys cross country, girls soccer, girls wrestling, boys wrestling, baseball and softball.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
A second.
Janet's gonna second that. Any further discussion on this item? Yeah, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the motion as stated, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right. Next on the list here is approve a seismic assessment service proposal, and this is for a $25,000 assessment. I think, from my understanding, and correct me, Mr. Henderson, this would be for a third proposal into the state seismic program. And I don't know, maybe you could talk a little bit about the most recent awarded seismic grant, and then this third one also, kind of give the story on it.
Okay, so yeah, the second one that was just approved last week, $2.5 million, and that will seismically strengthen the elementary end of Dufur School. So that's the second project, gets us to $500,000 in grant money from the Oregon Department of Education for that. And then the third one, and that's what I would recommend that we approve this evening. We got this TAP grant, which is a planning grant from the Department of Education. We would approve a contract with WRK Structural and Seismic Engineers to do that work for us. And then we would have them look both at the Dufur High School as well as the Petersburg school building as well, to see if there's upgrades that can be made in both places. And obviously the buildings are about the same vintage. When was the Petersburg school built, Stan? Was it fifties,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mid-50s.
yeah. So,
Well,
so it's
The new school down there.
yeah, the new one,
Maybe
yeah,
Handle.
yeah,
You know,
Oh, I was here.
It would have
yeah.
been,
It was somewhere,
it could be before that,
yeah.
actually.
Okay, so there's gonna be a lot of unreinforced walls down there, and then, of course, the gymnasium roof and things like that over there, so we're gonna have them look at Petersburg this time. That would be a third piece of the project, so what will happen is Brian Knight will come out, or his staff will come out this summer and do a review of Dufur High School as well as Petersburg with his $25,000 TAP grant, and then Brian would actually fill out the application for us as well, for the district as well, to, and we anticipate that there'll be another cycle, that in another year, they'll be approving another TAP grant. Or if it gets frozen, at least within the next couple of years, they would approve another, or not TAP grant, they would approve another series of seismic renovations around the state. I thought it might drop off a little bit this time just because of the economy and things, and it didn't. They approved more money than they've ever approved to do seismic renovation programs around the state. You'll recall last summer, we did the major piece of what we did last summer was the gym roof. And that really paid dividends. Certainly we're seismically way more strong now, for sure. But where we're really at is we're saving it. I'm gonna say a boatload of money, but it probably a small boat, but we're saving money with heating and cooling expenses in the lower gym. There's virtually no insulation in there prior to that project. And you recall that they built a new wall on the south end. There's actually two walls out there, insulation in between, and the strengthening comes all the way down to the floor here. And then the upper north wall in the gymnasium, they bored holes in the wall on the outside. There was no insulation. There was, two boards and a wall. And they bored holes in those and filled it full of the blow-in insulation there. It was kind of interesting. Last summer, you may remember when they did that project, they blew stuff in there and all of the mascots looked like it had snowed in there. They were quiet over the top of it and stuff. It was kind of fun. So, and that's one of the things that will happen with both this project down at this end, as well as the future the Dufur High School and Petersburg projects there. They look for opportunities to do some insulation stuff there as well. But this program's been kind to us. This is our third TAP grant, $75,000 there. We're at $500,000 in this. This TAP grant could get us up to $750,000 of free money from the state of Oregon. Free money is good money.
Jack, are they tending to stick with the same applicants through to the end of all of their projects, or is this kind of unusual to keep getting them for different pieces? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to do a good job of applying. Kind of the history of that is interesting. The first time we got a TAP grant, we had a walkthrough, and we had 8 to 10 firms that was out here, and we hired a person who didn't do a great job for us, to be honest, with the TAP grant. And then Brian actually, WRK did a bid for that project as well, and then the person did an application for us and we didn't get it. And then Brian called and said, "Hey, remember me? I think I'll do it. I'll write the grant for you. And I know why you didn't get it this last time. I'll write the seismic grant for you for $5,000. If you get the money, you give me $5,000. If you don't get it, you don't pay me anything." So it's worked out really well. And I'm not sure, Jan, if I'm understanding your question correctly, if there's other school districts where they kind of keep going.
Yeah.
I think Brian does a great job, so I think that it won't get to a point, the district may not get a grant next time, maybe it's, another year or 2 years or whatever, but I think at some point in time, we would keep going back to the trough on that, to get money.
Yeah, I think our original plan is we figured it'd take about 3 grants to get through this building and Petersburg, and so now we've been awarded 2 of 3, so we've done quite well. But it's $5 million brought into the district, and it not only is, from my perspective, not only is it helping with seismic stability of the building, but the upgrades to the facility also.
For instance, last summer, we were able to tear out a bunch of tile and abate all that because it's got the asbestos glue on the back of the tile and stuff. And we did that. The other thing that they did in lower gym is we had those, acoustical tiles at the top of the building where there had been leaks and it just looks ugly where the water comes in. It's kind of yellow and brown and nasty looking. They painted that and it just looks a ton better. So it was a huge improvement for the program. And then we got new doors in the back of the back of the Dufur High School building on the north end as well as part of that project.
Any questions? No, you know, I think it's something we should probably move forward with, for just a study, and if we got that information at that point in time. We can then apply for.
You need a
additional
motion
construction
for-
money. Yeah, need a motion basically to,
For the application.
yeah, approve the application, WR construction seismic.
I'll make that motion to approve the engineering, provide the engineering services with WRK for $25,000. Is that the right?
Yes, yep, yeah. We have a second on that.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Yeah. All those in favor of approving the assessment service proposal of WRK structural and seismic engineers signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, I think that's a good thing to get that done, especially including Petersburg. Yeah, school, how many students or with the Head Start program are down there on a daily basis? And participants.
It's a great question. It's full.
Okay,
So well over 100.
well over 100, yeah, so it'd be pretty important to make sure that building's safe.
Yeah.
Maybe bring some upgrades to it and stuff.
Yes. Concern about as far as funding. Maybe noises about.
Recent guidance that it's gonna be safe, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's what the article said today.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're assuming it's yes, and we've applied for 18 more slots for kindergarten or preschool proms as well. So that would be a nice addition to our coffers for next year too.
And yeah, we rent that building for almost $18,000 a year, so.
Yeah, and about that, I promise.
Well, even
The inflation.
if the seismic project was conducted down there, and just it's adding to our asset. that we
Oh, for sure.
have,
Well, and
it's gonna
that's-
make that building more valuable.
No, for sure. And that's one of the things that's worked out really well over there with having the Head Start folks in there is they've put a couple $1 million into that building. I mean, they did mini splits throughout the building. They've done new flooring throughout the building. They've done a ton of stuff. It needs a roof.
All right, well, let's keep going here. Next up, under new business, for number 6, talk about policy D, funding proposals and applications. This goes to Henderson, you brought this in, you've given us the existing policy, then a new.
Yeah, we're a little
alternate
outdated.
policy to take a look at. So-
Yeah, and really, and I think Tim brought up, is this the one you mentioned, Tim?
Yeah,
The-
we had the,
The whole grant.
it's from 1996, so it's,
Yeah, no, it was readopted in 2013. But anyway, this policy is clearly outdated, I would think. If I were a board member, I would think that it is clearly outdated. This is really heavy on board members saying yay on every grant almost. And that isn't really how we function in our building. So that's really why it's here. And we've been really successful in the last 2 years of getting grant funding. I think last year we matched the state school fund dollar amount in grants. Is that correct, Josie? No? Oh, I thought we did. Anyway, we got a bunch of grant money last year.
Wish you'd have told me you were gonna ask me that question.
Well, that's my specialty, is asking people questions they aren't ready for. But we got $2.5 million in seismic money.
Yeah.
So that put us, well into
Pretty
that.
close.
Anyway, we've been really successful getting grants, but it would be a little slow if there had to be a question every month in a board meeting to ask the board if we could apply for a grant. We've gotten grants like in a day's notice, $150,000, $200,000 grants in a day's notice.
7 minutes.
7 minutes, yeah, so it was the other day, it was 7 minutes, and it's like, I mean, obviously, it makes no sense anywhere for anybody to say, no, wait, let's have the board talk about it. Because it's not like it's something of controversy.
Just think about the
grants
grant
that-
search all of that in 1996.
Yeah.
2025. It's just had a book.
Well, even 20.
Even 2030,
Yeah.
Big change.
You know, the world has changed a lot. So I included the policy DD grant funding proposal and applications version 1 for your review and potential first reading, which gives the superintendent a little more leeway in finding grants without scheduling a meeting. In fact, the superintendent is authorized to use their judgment in approving it for submission, and it probably would be a deal that I've probably communicated with the chairman of this board, more about grants and stuff that we're doing, as opposed to the entire board and things like that. But it's a really, really dynamic thing and which I don't, if I were sitting here as a board member, I'd be saying, get all the money you get. So,
Yeah, it depends on what the strings attached are.
yeah,
But you don't have to accept a grant if we decide that.
Right,
you know,
yeah.
Just because you apply, so you have to take it.
yeah.
I think it would be good. Obviously, there's some grants that require a board approval before you can actually submit your application, and obviously we bring those forward, but it would be nice for the board of directors if you could have a grants tracking sheet. I'm sure Jesse's probably got something in the finance end of it. Jesse's gonna nod yet. But at least so we knew which grants had been applied for, which ones had been awarded, almost like a rolling list, and then include that as part of the superintendent report. It'd be really nice, because I think we lose track, and some of them have different names that we may not follow what it is, and so you guys can kind of help keep us up to speed. You know, so we knew, hey, right now we've got $5 million worth of grants in the application process, and your new seismic grant has been awarded. It'd almost be nice to see on an annual basis how much grant funding we're bringing into the district. You know, because that's it's a completely different funding mechanism now than 2013 or 1997. It's such a big factor today. And I think going forward, I think too, Kristen, it'd be like, how do we manage staff to have the ability to continue going after grants? You know, just as you have people coming and going,
Okay,
you know, looking at that.
we should have a monthly grants meeting,
So,
weekly.
Weekly, that sounds like a good idea.
and with all the federal cuts and everything else, it's gonna change yet. You know, your federal money's probably gonna dry out going forward, or maybe other things that come up, but it's almost like with the state, they won't include the funds in with the student funding, but you have to apply for a grant to get it. You see the same thing at the county. All you gotta do is apply, but you have to apply to get the funds. It's just kind of a crazy thing.
Plus the whole.
Well, we just went through that with integrated guidance. and
Yeah.
That was a.
Yeah.
It makes things easier. It was so easy, and we will enjoy that easiness with our quarterly reporting.
But I think the board should allow the flexibility of the administration to, as they see opportunities to pursue those. And some of them are on short notice, or you get a phone call that says, you know, you should really apply for this and
For instance,
in a
there's
short amount of time.
the legislature came up with some money last week for summer school money. And our reading scores were too good to make us eligible for it, correct, ladies?
Correct.
Okay.
They should have
And-
based it. on-
But then it got more convoluted. The ESD was eligible to get X number of dollars, which turned out to be $40,000. And so we have a meeting tomorrow, is it tomorrow morning? With,
Yeah.
With a couple of folks from the ESD, where we're gonna get $35,000 or $40,000 for summer school. So it's just things like that.
Mhm. Well, I think there's been a number of times too, where other organizations, what have you, didn't follow through or whatever, and then we get a phone call, can you use these funds for this program? I'd like you guys to have the flexibility, that's why you mentioned it, to have the judgment in knowing if that's a good or bad thing for the district to pull those additional dollars in.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I think we should take this as a first reading of the new policy, and we could all think about what we may bring back if there's additional items to include in there.
we'll discuss this in-house too.
Yeah, I really think like the grant tracking sheet would be quite useful for the board, so you can track with you guys to know what's out there.
We have one.
Yeah, I was sure you did, yeah, so.
It's a little messy, but.
Yeah, well, and that's,
Life is,
yeah, that's fine. Okay, I'm gonna move on, new business number 7, I did ask for this to be added to the agenda tonight, and this is talking about the 4-day school week. And so to kind of give a little bit of history on it, we had some of our teachers approach the board a couple of months ago. Or was it last month?
Just last month.
Asking, yes, time travels, asking, having some comments and it was in the public comment session about a 4-day week. And then we had a shorter period of time in the retreat where we discussed this. And I was a little vague to me on where we ended up. And then we had quite a bit of conversation around it. And so I did ask for it to be put on to the agenda tonight so that we can kind of figure out what we want to do with it for right now. And so I'd like to open that back up. It was in,
It was in the minutes here.
Ann's got the minutes for the retreat as a summary in there.
Do you
Around that.
read that out loud? This was.
So reading from the retreat minutes, the board, this is for the 4-day school week, the board discussed the idea of the 4-day week, which was proposed by a group of teachers and the impact on the student, staff, and family. They agreed student performance and the need for more research and discussion is definitely needed. The administration will meet with teachers to address the root concerns of issues raised by teachers that brought this request to the board. Consensus of the group is not to take any action in the 2025 school year. Onboarding our new staff and board members is not onboarding our new staff and board members is not the time to consider a big change. It is a very long-term process that will need in-depth discussion. And so that's what we put in there. But I mean, as I thought about this, I just wanted to, I guess, bring it back in front of the board. I didn't feel like we weren't really there to make any final decisions at the retreat. It was more just a discussion, was the purpose of the retreat and stuff. And so, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on this. I think, if you guys have anything else you want to discuss, or I think given direction to the administrative staff on what you'd like to see with this.
I think that one of the things we discussed most at the retreat was, we just don't know enough. We certainly don't, this is certainly not an emergency that we can, rush into this decision. Change everything for next year. Personally, I need to see a lot more information about the benefits. There's the concerns brought up by our public comment about the effects of our, other staff besides teachers. I think we all acknowledge the weight of what's being expected of teachers and staff at the school and their concerns about, student behaviors and, the burdens and that's kind of what we addressed in that reading that we want to have discussions about. Are there ways that we can help staff and teachers with those issues? But I think a lot of us there's a lot of issues with just going to a 4-day school week. Does that mean we'll go until the end of June? Does that mean, as the concerns about other staff and their pay, we're definitely something to consider. So there's so many different factors. And like we talked about when we were talking about attendance, like, okay, so 4-day work week, one of the arguments was, oh, well, kids are not here on Fridays anyway. I'm not sure that I take that as a good argument, because I think Thursdays just become the Friday. And so, I mean, again, prove me wrong, go ahead. But I think we all felt that this would be we needed way more time to even consider whether this was even something we want to consider. And with the board, at least one board member, potentially 3 new board members, and a new principal and a new superintendent, it's too much.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is and it's now on the head where the issue going forward from 1 month from now. So that could all change, if we come up with some plans here, that could all change. And so the only thing that I'd be looking for is a fuzzy timeline of when those discussions would happen based on the availability and headspace of our new administration. So I'd like to see over the next month, like, what is a fuzzy idea of discussions about that look like? So that way there's a foundation for in July to go, okay, this is, so teachers feel comfortable. We do have it on the radar. We are thinking about it. Here's a fuzzy idea how we will go through that process. So just a process piece over the next month of what it would look like to have those discussions.
Yeah, sort of a list of data
Yeah.
that we would want to be a part of that discussion. That would come, and then obviously our administration needs time to collect.
Yeah.
Data.
Stan, if you have anything,
The next month is quite busy, just being here. I don't know, I just don't think there's a big hurry, I just think. The more we look at it and visit, the more questions we're gonna have, I just think it's a huge amount of information to digest, and I just don't support being in a hurry at all. Summer's coming, and I think we should be constantly thinking about it, and visiting it, but it's just too big a deal, there's too much involved, and they say, I don't know, I think we should revisit it. I mean, we should do it, because out of respect to the teachers, you know, and their energy there, but on our side is where the buck stops, and we really gotta do our homework.
Well, we need to figure out, I mean, we need to figure out what's best for students.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, we want our staff to be happy and healthy and everybody get what they need, but
And I
our
feel
priority
like
is serving our students.
even not even till next fall.
Right.
Just give us a summer to think about it. Just, you know, just thinking about it. Be creative doing that. I just don't, I know the teachers gonna be upset. They're already very upset. But I'm sorry about that. This is a huge thing.
okay.
And I would, you know, I'd like to really hear from our new superintendent. You know, what are you thinking about? What's your vision? And you're gonna have to, it's gonna be up to you. Whatever, you know, whatever you want, the most really coming from you. Well, how you can figure out how to do this, or if you can. And I'll sure support it, you know, if we can have a plan and if I can work, I'm all for it, because you're gonna be the boss here for all.
Okay, Gianna, how about you?
Well, it's a huge decision. I'm a little bit more concerned about what's making the teachers push for this and why they want it. Like I said at our meeting before, teaching has changed considerably from what any of us remember ever when we were in the classroom. They're dealing with a lot more, as we've talked about. I mean, you know, the IEPs, the learning disabilities, the whatever that's being all thrown at them more than ever before. And how do we help address that? If it's not a 4-day week, what do we need to do, and how do we start addressing that? And how do we find out maybe the 4-day work week isn't the answer, but what is? Because I think this is the teachers reaching out and asking for help. And that's what, and they didn't come to us just saying, we need something to happen. They came to us with a solution, and I love that. I always tell my staff, don't come to me with just all of your problems. I want to know what you think we can do to fix it. And they kind of did that. And we might not like their solution, but maybe there's some other solutions that we can start with and help them and give them some relief. And I don't know what that is, but I would at least like to be discussing that with them. And you know, I'm not in the building. I don't know what it is, but I would like to support them however we can while we discuss this big topic, because 4-day work week seems like a real big topic. Oh, it is a real big topic. So, but what can we do in the meantime if we're not going to address it now? Is there something else we can do? within the budgeting process? I mean, is it more aids? Is it more, I don't know what it is. I have no clue, but that's all I'm thinking about.
And I kind of made some notes as you guys were talking. I think for me, the transition of Kristen, you moving into your new role, I think has to take priority. And I think that, you know, looking at your time and everything you've got to get done between now and the first day of school for this next year, I really question if you have time for this particular, you know, the whole study of the 4-day week. And I really think, you know, I'm gonna say July 1st, you know, to survey the school board at that time to kind of get a gauge, because they may be completely for or completely against it at that time. Will probably help give you some guidance. And so I hate to say one direction or another, just, you know, surveying them, but I really do think, you know, kind of what everybody else has discussed is there has been some issues brought forward, and how do we start working on those? And I think, you know, talking about the attendance light on Fridays, and is there discipline problems and all these things, it's like, how do we start diving into those things? And the thing I love about you is you always have these data and graphs. And so when we talk about what's the attendance look like throughout the year, I know you can go back and pull that information together and help share that with the board to make these decisions and stuff. And so, and it may come down to 4-day week is the best option, and that's the best thing we can do. But I just, you know, it is going to take time. I know, and I had brought up, you know, a few years ago, when we talked about this, we had quite a bit of community members coming in saying, no, this isn't what we want for a community. But I think we got to take teachers, parents, the community, all that in to try to make the best decisions and stuff. So, and the finances, I mean, and the fact now a kid misses one day of school, and that's 1.15 or 1.25 compared to 1 on your weighted average, you know, as far as the percentage of time where you miss one day of a 4-day week, it's heavier rated than one day of a 5-day week type of thing. Yeah. So, but I think, I don't know, my thing about it is, I guess, again, you know, survey the board on the July meeting and see if that's something they want to pursue or not, and help give you some guidance. But I just worry about you, of all the things you're going to be trying to get done. And I think that's got to take priority, make sure the school gets opened up. And the 4-day week, I would think, should be almost a year in advance of work before you would expect to see a change made. You know, or just by no means is there enough time right now to make a change for September next year.
Yeah, I think there's too many trickle down effects.
Yeah.
That need to be explored.
So.
If there's something that, you know, we can do as a board to help. I mean, I don't know that there is, but I mean, I know they wanted to talk to the board members more, and I mean, if there's something we can help with that information gathering more, so it doesn't just all land on you. I mean, if there's something helpful that we can help with in that, and then actually, you know, sitting down, information gathering, why is this, you know, or what are you seeing, why you need, I don't know, just whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I have the same sentiment. Put me to work to figure something out.
Yeah, I think the next move, once we've got elections done and start meeting in June, is establish our goals around what we want to know this time next year, and then come up with our root cause analysis questions that we can ask to all of our staff members, and just divide and conquer to get those asked and reported.
Yeah. But I would just encourage you, I know you're already gonna do this, but take, you know, if it's attendance or discipline or whatever, like what can we be doing now to help? Not waiting a year to make improvements there. What can we be doing now to try to help with some of those issues, some of the issues that were brought up by a lot of the teachers that came in and talked to the board and stuff. So, and it's easy to say that. I don't know what the answers are. How do you make sure your students, especially your high school population, is showing up on Fridays? I don't know, it takes a lot of help from parents too. So. But I mean, I think that could be part of your your open house conversations with students and parents next year is this is the expectations of the board that we want to maintain a high level of attendance, and here's how we do that. Here's the trends we've seen, a lot of Fridays off, and so if you're allowing your students not to come to school on Friday, you're part of the problem. You know, and these are goals of ours as a district to try to increase the education level of our students. So, yeah. Okay, anything else on that? I mean, we get no really decision, more just a lot of, hey, Kristen's. But I think we all understand what you've got on your plate over the next 4 or 5 months and stuff. And so, but again, I think that would, in my mind, be the best thing to do is survey the board or your July meeting.
and I've got
Is
to
this,
finish
are
my
you interested in this or not?
Yeah,
And
I've
take
got to
their-
finish my principal's job.
Yeah, so,
The next
yeah,
35 days.
Well, yeah, and that's, I mean, Stan alluded to, I mean, there's no shortage of stuff to do right now. These,
No,
Yeah.
again, it's every night, something.
yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna let that one sit then. I don't think we'll bring it back up on the agenda then. We got 2 meetings and we got a budget meeting next Monday, and then a regularly scheduled board meeting the 1st of June and the first part of June, and then there was comment on the 2nd of June board meeting. We have that date.
June
23rd,
23rd.
Monday, June 23.
Yeah.
6 P.M.
Sure.
Jen.
All right, that's all I have on the agenda, and please remember, the board meetings are recorded and archived online. It's on January, so with that being said, meeting adjourned.